For years ago, my family showed me exactly what they thought of me at Thanksgiving dinner. It wasn't just a meal, it was a gut punch that's still echoing in my head, especially when the holidays roll around. My folks, Richard and Linda, handed my younger brother, Travis, a check for 15 grand, then turned to me with nothing but venom. "Losers don't get handouts," my mom said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. My dad just stared, nodding like he was proud of her for saying it. Travis smirked, waving the check like a flag, and my cousin Jenny, sitting across the table, laughed under her breath. They called me a disappointment, a stain on the family name. I stood up, said, "Got it," and walked out into the cold November night. That was the last time I sat at their table. 3 weeks ago, I pulled a move they never saw coming, and now my phone's blowing up with their frantic voicemails. "Pick up, you owe us." But let's start at the beginning, because this wasn't just one bad night, it was a lifetime of being the odd man out. My family's always been about appearances. Growing up in our small Ohio town, my parents would bicker about money or whatever else was stressing them out, but the second company showed up, they'd flip a switch and act like we were the perfect American family. My brother Travis, 2 years younger, was their golden boy. Me? I was just Ethan, the guy who didn't quite fit. Mom used to say Travis was her miracle child because she had him after a tough pregnancy. I was just the kid who came first, the one they didn't brag about. Dad, a quiet guy most of the time, would light up when it came to Travis, his grades, his football games, his big plans. Me, I got silence or criticism. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" was their favorite line. That Thanksgiving, I got a text from Mom in our family group chat, saying she wanted everyone there early for quality time. I showed up at their house, already feeling off. The place smelled like turkey and pie, but the vibe was tense. Travis was on his phone, pacing the living room, muttering about some business deal. My parents were in the kitchen, talking in low voices. My cousin Jenny was there with her mom, my Aunt Karen, both of them glued to their phones, barely saying hi. Travis's girlfriend, Sarah, was setting the table, but she kept checking her watch like she had somewhere better to be. I grabbed a soda from the fridge and sat on the couch, trying to blend in. Travis was going on about making moves and how some people needed to get their act together. Nobody said it was about me, but Mom gave Dad a look, and I knew. Dinner was fine at first. Mom's cooking was solid, mashed potatoes, green beans, the works. But there was this undercurrent, like everyone was waiting for something. Aunt Karen was droning on about her new car. Jenny was showing Sarah some viral video. Travis kept tapping his knife on his plate, impatient. Dad was sneaking glances at his phone, which Mom usually hated, but she let it slide. After dessert, Mom stood up, all dramatic, and said she wanted to honor real success. Travis perked up, shooting me a smug grin. She went on about hard work, ambition, making the family proud. Then she handed Travis an envelope. He ripped it open, laughed, and held up a check for $15,000. "This is what winning looks like," he said, passing it to Sarah, who gasped and clapped. Dad pounded the table, saying, "That's my boy." Mom beamed, saying it was for Travis's future because he was the one who carried the family forward. Then she turned to me. The room went dead quiet. "Some people don't get rewarded," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "Losers don't get handouts. You don't deserve a thing." Dad nodded, his face hard. Travis laughed, loud and mean, saying, "Tough break, Ethan." Jenny snickered, scrolling on her phone. I just sat there, my fork still in my hand, feeling like the air got sucked out of the room. "What's this about?" I asked, my voice steady but my chest tight. Mom didn't miss a beat. "You've never stepped up. You're lazy, you're a failure, you're an embarrassment." Dad chimed in, "You're a letdown, Ethan." Travis leaned in, smirking. "Maybe try harder next time, huh?" Sarah mumbled something about calming down, but Mom shut her down. "No, he needs to hear it." I pushed my chair back, the scrape loud in the silence. "Got it," I said. Mom snapped, "Maybe now you'll finally figure it out." Travis waved the check at me, grinning. "Better luck next year." I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Aunt Karen called after me, but I kept moving. Travis yelled, "Don't trip on your way out," and laughed again. I slammed the door behind me, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. I could hear them inside, Mom saying I'd learn my lesson, Dad muttering about me coming back when I'm desperate, Travis joking about me begging for scraps. I walked to the end of the street, my hand shaking, and called a buddy to pick me up. My phone buzzed, Jenny texting, probably to play nice, but I ignored it. I saw Travis post the check on Instagram later that night, captioned with a crown emoji. I crashed at my friend's place, didn't go back for my stuff, didn't answer any calls. That night, I decided I was done being their punching bag. They wanted me gone? Fine. I'd show them what gone really looked like. After that Thanksgiving, I didn't set foot in my parents' house again. No birthdays, no holidays, not even when my uncle passed a year later. People ask if it was tough to walk away, but honestly, the hardest part was admitting I'd been invisible to them my whole life. I just stopped kidding myself that it'd ever change. The first month was quiet, too quiet. I got a handful of texts, mostly from my cousin Jenny, saying stuff like, "They didn't mean it. You know how Linda gets." My brother Travis sent me a dumb meme about tough love, like he thought it was funny. I didn't reply, just blocked him on everything except one old group chat, in case I needed proof of what went down. My mom didn't reach out. My dad sent one text, short and cold. Grow up, Ethan. That was it. That was their effort to pull me back. I crashed on my buddy Mike's couch for a while, helping him with rent when I could. Money was tight, side gigs, odd jobs, whatever paid the bills. Some months, I was late on my share, but Mike was cool about it. The silence from my family was almost a relief. No more lectures about figuring it out, no more comparisons to Travis, no more feeling like I was crashing someone else's party. I heard through a friend that Travis got engaged to Sarah not long after that dinner. Nobody told me directly. I found out when I saw his Instagram post, him and Sarah, all smiles, with some cheesy caption about building a legacy. My parents commented with heart emojis. I wasn't invited to the engagement party, not that I'd have gone. Jenny tried to play mediator, texting me about how Mom was hurt. I didn't show up for Christmas. I didn't respond. The only time Mom contacted me was 6 months later, asking if I could loan Travis a couple grand because his business hit a rough patch. I deleted the message. Travis followed up with a voice note, acting all buddy-buddy, saying I'd get it back when his deal took off. I blocked that number too. There were moments I doubted myself. I'd see families at the diner, laughing over burgers, or hear coworkers talk about their weekend barbecues, and I'd wonder if I'd been too harsh. Maybe I was the one who broke us. Then I'd remember that dinner, Travis's smirk, Mom's words, Dad's stare. That shut the doubts up quick. About a year and a half later, I started hearing whispers from old friends back home. Things weren't so rosy for my folks. They'd sunk a bunch of money into Travis's ventures, some car detailing business that sounded like a scam from the start. It tanked, and they were stuck with the bills. Jenny told me they tried to refinance the house but got denied. Dad was still posting on Facebook, acting like everything was fine, sharing old vacation photos with captions about the good life. But you could tell it was a front. The house started looking rough in the background of their posts, peeling paint, overgrown grass. Mom called me once, out of the blue, asking if I'd come home for a talk. Said they just needed a little help to get back on track. I hung up without saying a word. The thing is, it wasn't just that they pushed me out. They needed me to stay small, to be the screw-up so Travis could shine. Mom always said Travis was her gift because she almost lost him before he was born. I was just the kid who showed up first, the one they didn't plan for. Dad was all about the family name, and Travis was his shot at a legacy. I was the guy who didn't measure up, the one they could ignore at reunions or forget to invite to the lake house. I started stashing every penny I could, picking up extra shifts, cutting corners. I moved out of Mike's place into a cheap one-bedroom, nothing fancy, just mine. I stayed off social media, didn't want them tracking me. I'd see Travis post about new sneakers or a flashy watch, but then the post slowed down. Their house started looking emptier, fewer knickknacks, no more fancy furniture. That's when I started thinking about hitting back. Not petty stuff, like prank calls or messing with their cable. I wanted them to feel what I felt, cut off, helpless, like they didn't matter. I checked their house on real estate sites, just out of habit. One day, I saw the listing change to pending foreclosure. My heart raced. Dad always acted like that house was his castle, proof he'd made it. Now it was slipping away, and I knew I could make it hurt. I called the listing agent, kept my name out of it, asked what it'd take to buy it. I spent weeks researching, setting up a shell company so they wouldn't trace it to me. I wasn't sure I'd go through with it, but the more I thought about that Thanksgiving, the more I wanted them to know what it's like to lose everything. I didn't wake up one day and decide to take my family's house. It was a slow burn, a plan that came together piece by piece as I watched their world start to crack. After I saw that pending foreclosure notice on their house online, something clicked. My parents, Richard and Linda, always acted like that place was their legacy, proof they were better than everyone else in our little Ohio town. Seeing it slip away felt like a chance to turn the tables, to make them feel the kind of helpless I felt walking out that Thanksgiving night. I wasn't just mad anymore, I was focused. I wanted them to know what it's like when the ground drops out from under you. I started digging into the foreclosure process, spending nights on my laptop with cheap coffee, reading about auctions and liens. I called the real estate agent listed on the site, keeping my voice casual, saying I was just curious about the property. I didn't give my name, used a burner email I set up for junk like this. The agent said the house was headed to auction in a few months unless the owners, my parents, could settle their debts. I asked what it'd take to buy it outright. He gave me a number, way more than I had, but not impossible if I played it smart. I hung up and just sat there, staring at my cracked apartment wall, thinking, can I really do this? To pull it off, I needed to be invisible. No way was I letting them know it was me, not until it was too late. I'd been saving for a while, living lean, ramen for dinner, no cable, secondhand clothes. I set up a limited liability company, called it something generic like Buckeye Holdings, so it wouldn't scream my name. I found a guy in town, a lawyer friend of Mike's, who helped me file the paperwork for cheap. He didn't ask too many questions, just raised an eyebrow when I said I wanted to stay anonymous. I kept every step clean, using a new phone number for calls, routing emails through a virtual mailbox. I wasn't taking chances. Meanwhile, my family started reaching out, probably smelling trouble. My brother Travis called first, leaving a voicemail that was all fake concern. Hey man, things are kinda rough at home. Maybe you could swing by, talk it out. He didn't mention the house, but I knew he was fishing. I didn't call back. My mom sent a text a week later, long and rambling, about how family sticks together and how I should come home to help out. Still no word about the foreclosure, like they thought they could keep it secret. My dad didn't bother with pleasantries, just a single text, call your mother. I saved every message, every voicemail, just in case I needed to prove what they were up to later. I kept tabs on them through real estate sites and what little I heard from my cousin Jenny. She'd text now and then, saying things like, your folks are stressed, but they won't say why. I'd reply with something vague, not letting on that I knew about the house. Jenny mentioned Travis's car detailing business had gone bust, leaving my parents on the hook for loans they'd co-signed. Their social media was a dead giveaway too. Mom stopped posting her usual blessed nonsense. Dad's photos were all old, from years ago, like he was trying to pretend nothing had changed. Travis was still flexing new sunglasses, a gym selfie, but the backgrounds looked cheap, like he was crashing somewhere temporary. The closer the auction got, the more I committed. I picked up extra hours at the warehouse, took on side gigs like delivering food, anything to pad my savings. I ran the numbers over and over, making sure I could bid enough to win. I didn't want the house to live in. I didn't even like that place, with its creaky floors and bad memories. I wanted it because they did. I wanted them to know what it feels like to lose something you thought was yours forever. One night, I was scrolling through the listing again, and I saw the price drop. My heart pounded. This was real now. Then Travis texted again, out of nowhere, saying he'd heard I was doing all right, and maybe I could help the family out. He had the nerve to bring up that 15 grand check from Thanksgiving, saying he'd invested it and it was tied up. I laughed, didn't reply. My mom called the next day, voice shaking, asking if I could lend a hand, because things are tight. I let it go to voicemail. My dad sent another text, be a man, Ethan. Help your family. I saved it and kept moving. They didn't know it yet, but I was already 10 steps ahead, and I wasn't stopping until they felt what I'd felt, alone, ignored, and out in the cold. The day of the auction, I was a bundle of nerves, sitting in my cramped apartment with a lukewarm energy drink and my laptop open. I'd been planning this for months, ever since I saw that foreclosure notice on my parents' house. My limited liability company, Buckeye Holdings, was ready to bid, and I'd scraped together every dollar I could. Extra shifts, side hustles, even selling an old guitar I hadn't touched in years. My folks, Richard and Linda, and my brother Travis had no idea I was behind it. That was the point. I wanted them to feel the rug pulled out, just like I did that Thanksgiving when they handed Travis 15 grand and told me I was worthless. I logged into the online auction from a coffee shop Wi-Fi, using a VPN to keep my tracks covered. The house popped up on the screen, same old brick rancher, now with faded shutters and a patchy lawn in the photos. My dad used to mow that yard like it was his religion, but you could tell he'd given up. The starting bid was low, lower than I'd expected, which meant I had a shot. I sat there, heart thumping, watching the numbers tick up. A few random bidders jumped in early, probably investors looking for a flip. Then I saw a username I recognized, Travis Winners 92. It was my brother, using some dumb handle from his high school gaming days. I almost laughed. He was trying to save the house, but his bids were weak, barely keeping pace. I waited, letting the others duke it out, then had my lawyer's buddy submit a bid through Buckeye Holdings. It was aggressive, more than Travis could match. His next bid came in, but it was smaller, like he was scraping the bottom of his bank account. I pictured him sweating, maybe at mom and dad's kitchen table, thinking he could still win. I upped my bid again, and that was it. Travis was out. The auction ended, and Buckeye Holdings won. I leaned back in my chair, hands shaking, not sure if I felt like a genius or a villain. The house was mine, and they didn't even know who'd taken it. The fallout started fast. My phone lit up with a call from my mom that same night. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was a mess, half crying, half yelling about how some vulture had stolen their home. She didn't say my name, but she was fishing, asking why I hadn't helped when they needed me. My dad texted next, just 2 words, you're done. I saved it, like I saved everything they sent. Travis called too, leaving a voicemail that was pure rage. Whoever did this, they're gonna pay. He spat, like he was in some action movie. I didn't respond, but I couldn't help smirking. They were scrambling, and I was the one holding the cards. A couple days later, my cousin Jenny texted, saying the family was falling apart. Your mom's telling everyone you abandoned them, she wrote. They're saying you could have stopped this. I replied, they made their bed. Jenny didn't push back, just said, it's bad, Ethan. I checked their social media, and it was chaos. Travis posted a vague rant about snakes and betrayers, clearly aimed at whoever bought the house. Mom shared some Bible verse about forgiveness, but her comments were turned off. Dad stopped posting altogether, which wasn't like him. He loved showing off that house, the big garage, the patio he built himself. Now it was gone, and they were starting to feel it. I didn't tell anyone what I'd done, not even Mike. The lawyer guy handled the paperwork, and I made sure every document listed Buckeye Holdings, not me. But I knew they'd figure it out eventually. My mom called again, this time begging, saying they just needed a small loan to fix things. I listened to her voicemail twice, not because I felt bad, but because I wanted to hear the desperation in her voice. My dad sent another text. Be a man, help your family. Same old line, like I owed them after they'd spent years telling me I was nothing. Travis tried a different angle, sending a long message about how we used to be brothers and how I should do the right thing. I didn't bite. The house was mine now, legally, but I didn't want to live there. Too many ghosts. Thanksgiving dinners, Travis's laughter, Mom's cold stares. I thought about renting it out, maybe selling it later, but for now, I just wanted them to know it was gone. I drove by the place a week after the auction, late at night, so nobody would see me. The windows were dark, the driveway empty. It didn't feel like victory, not yet. It felt like the calm before the storm. They were about to find out who Buckeye Holdings really was, and when they did, I'd make sure they understood what it's like to be left with nothing. I didn't want my family to know it was me who bought their house until the moment was perfect. I'd spent months setting up Buckeye Holdings, keeping my name off every document, every call, every email. After the auction, I had the house, but the real payoff was coming. The moment they'd realize Ethan, the son they called a loser, had taken their precious castle. My parents, Richard and Linda, and my brother Travis were already panicking, thinking some faceless investor had swooped in. I let them stew for a week, their voicemails piling up, each one more desperate than the last. My mom's voice cracked as she begged for help. My dad's text got shorter, angrier. Fix this. Travis sent a rambling message about family loyalty, like he hadn't laughed in my face at Thanksgiving 4 years ago. I saved it all, every word, for the day I'd need it. I planned the reveal like a chess move. I had my lawyer's friend send a letter to their new rental, a cramped duplex across town, on Buckeye Holdings letterhead. It was formal, cold, notifying them the house was under new ownership and offering a courtesy meeting to discuss future arrangements. I made sure the letter mentioned the company's local address, one they could Google. It took 2 days for Travis to figure it out. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, banging on the door like he was ready to break it down. I opened it, and he stormed in, face red, yelling, "You think this is funny? You stole our house." I leaned against the counter, calm as I could manage, and said, "It's just business, Travis. You should know about that, with all your big deals." He lunged at me, but I sidestepped, and he just slammed his fist on my table instead. "You're dead to me," he spat, then left, slamming the door so hard my neighbor poked her head out. My mom called an hour later, sobbing, saying I'd destroyed everything we built. She didn't ask how I pulled it off, just kept repeating, "How could you do this to your family?" I let her talk, then hung up. My dad didn't call, but he showed up the next day, standing outside my building, staring up at my window. I watched him through the blinds. He didn't knock, just stood there for 10 minutes, then walked away, shoulders slumped. My cousin Jenny texted, saying the family was in chaos. "They're telling everyone you tricked them," she wrote. "And Linda says you're heartless." I replied, "They made their choice first." Jenny didn't argue, just sent a sad emoji. I drove by the house that night, just to see it. The yard was overgrown, the mailbox stuffed with junk flyers. I didn't feel joy, exactly, just a kind of grim satisfaction. They'd spent years treating me like I didn't matter, handing Travis 15 grand while calling me a failure. Now they knew what it felt like to lose something they thought was theirs. Travis posted online, calling the buyer, me, a coward who screwed over good people. Mom shared some vague post about betrayal, and Dad went silent, his Facebook page frozen on an old photo of the house. I didn't respond to any of it. I wanted them to feel the weight of their own words, their own choices, without me saying a thing. The next week, my mom tried again, leaving a voicemail about forgiveness and how I could make things right by selling the house back to them. I didn't call back. Travis sent a text, offering to work something out if I'd stop being a jerk. I ignored it. My dad finally called, his voice low and tight, saying, "You've made your point. Let's talk." I saved the message but didn't reply. They weren't sorry, they were scared. They built their whole identity on that house, on Travis being the golden child, on me being the one they could ignore. I wasn't just taking their property, I was taking their story, and they hated me for it. The weeks after my family found out I bought their house were like watching a slow-motion car wreck. My parents, Richard and Linda, and my brother Travis were coming apart, and I was the one holding the wrench. They'd moved into that duplex, a squat little place with peeling paint and a chain-link fence. My cousin Jenny sent me a photo of their new front yard, just gravel and a rusty mailbox. It was a far cry from the brick rancher they'd bragged about for years. My mom's voicemails kept coming, a mix of tears and rage, saying I'd ruined their lives and torn the family apart. My dad's texts were sparse but sharp. "You're no son of mine." Travis was the loudest, posting online about how he'd make it right and calling me a traitor in all caps rants. I didn't engage, just watched from the sidelines, saving every message like evidence. I heard from Jenny that my parents were spinning stories at family gatherings, saying I'd schemed to steal the house or been bought off by shady investors. They never mentioned the real reason, that they'd pushed me out years ago, handed Travis 15 grand at Thanksgiving, and told me I was a failure. Jenny said my Aunt Karen was trying to play peacemaker, calling me to say, "Family's family. Ethan, you should give them a chance." I told her, they had their chance. She sighed and hung up. Travis's girlfriend, Sarah, had left him months before the auction, and now he was couch surfing with friends, posting gym selfies and hustle quotes to act like he was still on top. It was pathetic. One night, my mom showed up at my apartment, banging on the door and yelling loud enough to wake the building. "Ethan, you open this door right now," she shouted. I didn't move. My neighbor, an older guy with a temper, stepped out and told her to beat it. She screamed, "You don't know what he did," then left, but not before kicking my door. I found it didn't it the next morning. My dad tried his own stunt a few days later, showing up at my warehouse job during my lunch break. He didn't come inside, just leaned against his truck in the parking lot, staring at me. I stared back, eating my sandwich, until he drove off. It was like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I kept the house empty, no renters, no plans to move in. Sometimes I'd drive by, just to remind myself it was real. The place looked sad, curtains gone, windows dark, like it was holding its breath. I didn't want it for the memories. I wanted it because they couldn't have it. My parents called again, offering to buy it back, with money they didn't have. Travis sent a long email, half apologizing, half threatening, saying he'd find a way to get the house if I didn't do the right thing. I didn't reply. Jenny texted, saying the family was splitting, some cousins sided with my parents, others thought they'd brought it on themselves. "It's a mess," she wrote. I didn't care. They'd made me the outsider. Now they were the ones on the outside. The thing that hit me hardest wasn't their anger. It was how they still didn't get it. They thought I did this for money or spite. They didn't see it was about survival, about proving I wasn't the nothing they'd called me. I'd spent years being their scapegoat, the one they could blame to make Travis shine. Now they had nothing to show for it. No house, no golden child, no perfect family. I wasn't celebrating, but I wasn't sorry either. They'd built this mess, and I was just the guy who lit the match. By the time my family got the official eviction notice, they were out of moves. The house was mine, bought fair and square through Buckeye Holdings, and the county wasn't giving them any more extensions. My parents, Richard and Linda, had to move out 2 weeks after the auction, and my brother Travis was no help, still pretending he was one big break away from fixing everything. My cousin Jenny sent me a text with a picture of the house's empty living room, just bare walls and a single light bulb. "They're gone," she wrote. "It's weird seeing it like this." I didn't reply, but I saved the photo. It wasn't about the house itself. It was about what it meant to them, and what taking it meant to me. Their calls and texts hit a fever pitch. My mom left voicemails every day, sometimes crying, sometimes screaming about how I'd betrayed them. "You're no better than a thief," she said in one, her voice shaking. My dad's messages were colder, like he was trying to sound tough. "You'll answer for this." Travis went full meltdown, sending texts with random emojis, skulls, fists, flames, like a kid throwing a tantrum. He even tried calling from a friend's phone when I blocked his number. I let it all go to voicemail, listening just to hear how far they'd fall. My Aunt Karen called too, saying I was tearing the family apart and should think about forgiveness. I told her, they didn't think about me when they handed Travis that check. She didn't call back. One afternoon, Travis showed up at my apartment again, this time with a couple of his buddies. They stood outside, yelling for me to come out. "You want to play games, Ethan? Let's see you face me," he shouted. I stayed inside, called the cops, and watched from my window as they pulled up. Travis and his friends scattered before the officers could do much, but it was enough to keep them away. My mom tried a different tack, showing up at my job, waiting by my car after my shift. She looked smaller, her eyes red, holding a grocery bag like it was a shield. "We can fix this," she said. "Just sell us the house back. We'll pay you over time." I shook my head and got in my car. She grabbed the door handle, but I locked it and drove off, her reflection fading in my rearview. I heard from Jenny that my parents were telling everyone I'd scammed them, that I'd always been jealous of Travis. Travis leaned into it, posting online about how he'd rise above and take back what's ours. His followers, mostly old high school friends, ate it up, but I knew he was broke, crashing on couches, his business long gone. My dad stopped talking to most of the family, too proud to admit they'd lost everything. My mom kept up her church lady act, but Jenny said she'd stopped going to services, too embarrassed to face the gossip. I didn't feel like a hero, but I didn't feel guilty either. They'd spent my whole life making me the odd man out, praising Travis while telling me I'd never measure up. That Thanksgiving, they'd made it crystal clear I was nothing to them. So I became something they couldn't ignore. I kept the house locked up, no plans to use it, just let it sit as a reminder. I drive by sometimes, not to gloat, but to ground myself. This wasn't about winning, it was about surviving. They wanted me gone, and now they were the ones left with nothing but regrets. It's been a few months since my family moved out of the house, and the noise has finally died down. My parents, Richard and Linda, stopped calling after I blocked their numbers. My brother Travis sent a few more angry texts, promising he'd get even, but they tapered off when he realized I wasn't biting. My cousin Jenny says they're still in that duplex, keeping to themselves, barely talking to the rest of the family. My mom stopped posting her blessed updates, and my dad's Facebook is just a ghost town of old photos. Travis is still couch surfing, posting grind set quotes that get fewer likes every time. Their world shrunk, and I'm not part of it anymore. That's how I wanted it. I didn't keep the house to live in or rent out. It's still empty, a silent monument to what they lost. I drive by now and then, not out of pride, but to remind myself I did what I had to. I'm thinking about selling it next year, maybe to a young family who'll make better memories there. For now, it's enough knowing it's mine, and they know it. I don't need their apologies or their forgiveness. They made their choice that Thanksgiving, handing Travis 15 grand and calling me a failure. I made mine when I bought their house out from under them. Nobody gets to rewrite the score. My life's quieter now. I'm still in my one-bedroom apartment, still working at the warehouse, but I've started saving again, maybe for a truck or a trip somewhere far from Ohio. Mike and a few other buddies are my family now, the kind who don't keep score or expect me to be someone I'm not. Jenny texts sometimes, says she gets why I did it, but she's staying out of the drama. I respect that. The rest of the family, my Aunt Karen, the cousins, they've gone silent, either too ashamed or too loyal to my parents to reach out. I'm okay with it. Sometimes, I think about that Thanksgiving, the way Travis smirked, the way my mom's words cut, the way my dad just nodded. It still stings, but it's not about pain anymore. It's about power. I took back what they tried to take from me, my worth. They wanted me to be nothing, so I became something they couldn't ignore. I don't hate them, but I don't love them either. They're just people I used to know, and I'm just a guy who finally stood up. I don't know what's next for them, and I don't care. Travis might scam his way into another business. My parents might claw their way back to some version of their old life. Or maybe they'll stay stuck, blaming me for their mistakes. Either way, it's not my problem. I've got my own road ahead, and it's one I'm walking alone, by choice. If you're listening to this, maybe you've had a moment where you had to burn a bridge to save yourself. I don't regret it. I built a new one, and I'm already across.